She cried the night before her wedding, begging her parents not to marry her off to a man with nothing. She didn't know. The man she was being forced to marry didn't just have money. He had a secret empire. But he chose to hide it all, just to find someone who could love him for who he really was. Asterisk in a remote village nestled between dusty mountains and green fields, lived a simple, hard-working girl named Isla. Her days were filled with chores, taking care of her sick mother, and fetching water from the well. Her family was poor, barely surviving. But Isla had one treasure: her dreams. She dreamed of becoming a teacher, of leaving the village one day, of making her mother proud. But fate had other plans. One morning, her father came home with a decision already made. "You are to marry Faraz next week," he said sternly. That Isla's heart sank. She had heard of Faraz, a quiet, humble man who worked as a laborer in the nearby town. He had no land, no house of his own, and no family. To Isla, it felt like a punishment. "But why him, Baba?" she pleaded. "I don't love him. I don't even know him." Her father's eyes filled with shame. "Because he offered to pay for your mother's treatment, and no one else did." Isla's mother wept silently. Isla had no choice. The wedding was small, with only close relatives attending. Isla wore a faded red dress and kept her eyes on the floor. Faraz, dressed in plain white, looked calm and composed. He didn't speak much, and Isla didn't care to look at him. That night, Isla sat on the edge of their small rented room. She told him, "I agreed to this marriage for my mother. Don't expect anything from me." Faraz nodded. "I expect nothing but honesty." His words surprised her. There was no anger, no bitterness, just acceptance. Days turned into weeks. Isla noticed something strange. Despite being poor, Faraz always managed to pay for food, bills, and even her mother's continued treatment. He never borrowed money, yet never hesitated to spend where it was needed. He would leave early in the morning and return late. But he always brought her favorite fruit, always remembered small things. One day, a rich man's car broke down in front of their building. Faraz, in his dusty clothes, walked out and quietly made a phone call. Minutes later, 2 luxury cars pulled up, and a team of men bowed to Faraz, calling him sir. Isla watched from the window, confused. Later that night, she confronted him. "Who are you really, Faraz?" He smiled softly. "Just someone who values privacy." Suspicious, Isla began watching him more closely. She noticed he received parcels with no names, made calls in languages she didn't understand, and once, she caught a glimpse of a black card in his wallet, the kind only the ultra-rich used. Then came the biggest shock. One day, Isla's mother fell seriously ill. The doctor demanded immediate surgery, something they could never afford. Isla ran home, sobbing. She didn't expect Faraz to be there so soon. But when she told him, he simply nodded and said, "She'll be in the best hospital by evening." True to his word, a private ambulance arrived. Her mother was admitted to the top hospital in the city, and Isla was given a VIP pass to visit. Confused and overwhelmed, Isla searched Faraz's drawer back home and found files with his name. As the CEO of a multinational tech company, that he wasn't just rich. He was a billionaire in hiding. When Faraz came home that night, Isla was waiting. "Why did you lie to me?" she asked, trembling. "I didn't lie," he said calmly. "I just didn't tell you who I was. Because I've seen too many people fall in love with my money, not with me." She stayed silent. He continued. "I came to this village looking for peace. When I met your father, he didn't know who I was. But I saw something in you, something kind, unspoiled by greed." He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a letter. A letter written months ago, before they married. In it, he had promised that if she ever left him, he would never stop supporting her and her family. Because to him, her dignity mattered more than pride. Tears filled Isla's eyes. For weeks, she had looked down on him, judged him. But he had been kind, respectful, and quietly protecting her all along. That night, she couldn't sleep. The next morning, Isla cooked breakfast for the first time since the marriage. She served Faraz with her own hands. He looked surprised. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Not because you're rich, but because I never took the time to see who you really are." He smiled. "Now that you know, what will you do?" She replied, "Now, I want to know you, not your money. You." A year later, Isla stood on stage at a local school, giving a speech as a newly appointed teacher. The girl who once cried at being forced to marry was now stronger, educated, and in love. Faraz sat quietly in the crowd, clapping with the proudest smile. And in the back of her mind, Isla knew, sometimes, the greatest love stories begin where hope is lost, and the richest hearts are found in the humblest places.